Hi, it's Chris Gio, founder of Merchant Method, and you are listening to Retail Shift, Field Notes on Retail Success. My name is Chris Gio. I'm the founder of Merchant Method, and I've decided to dedicate this season to sharing my own qualitative notes about the industry, what I've amassed in lessons that have really shaped my signature approach to guiding and supporting independent retailers and makers. I decided to make the shift from retail trend reports, more technical information, to sharing these field notes to give all of us fuller meaning to this industry that we love, to this role and this profession that we call our vocation, and to really help us better understand how we can maneuver through it in our own way. And I'm hoping that you pair these observations with the retail trend reports, with the more technical training to unlock more profit with ease. That's my hope. Because I want to help you create not only your dream business, but also your dream job. It's what I want for myself, and I want the same for you too. So before we talk about the field observation that I'm sharing this week, I want to continue sharing a story that I started last week. And it's a story that starts with my family and I doing some very sincere spring cleaning. And my husband gathered a few kitchen things that were going to be ready to donate. And that is another story, me talking about the Buy Nothing Project. But I went through my husband's first pass and I discovered two mugs I haven't seen in years. So the thing to know about me is that I've moved across the country and back, up and down the West Coast. I've had many, many roles in retail, and the mugs that I found were from my first time at Gap Inc. And some things to know about the series of podcasts is that this is not going to be an expose about working for big retail. There's going to be no judgment about working for corporate retail versus independent retail. None of that. This really is about sharing some nuggets of wisdom and really critical observations that shape my perspective and therefore shape the work that I do, and hopefully help inform the work that you choose to do. So these mugs take me all the way back to my very first corporate retail job for Gap Inc. And at that time, they were Gap brand, Banana Republic, and Old Navy, and now there are three more brands in the mix. But what I want to talk about this episode around trying and trying again is sharing my field notes about being really persistent in achieving what you want to achieve. And all of that we know all too well. And I want to talk about the perspective of someone who is seeking a job. When I was in college, I was doing on campus interviews, and this idea behind on campus interviews, the aspiration is to secure a job before you graduate. And Gap Inc. came to my campus to recruit for a super cool rotational training program, a merchandise rotational training program for recent graduates. And I wanted in so badly, but I wasn't competitive enough in that I didn't have the academic grades, or I didn't have the resume, the experience to make me a desirable candidate to interview. So I, went through the on-campus interview process, didn't secure an interview. Didn't secure a job, excuse me. I secured interviews, but I didn't secure a job. And I knew that after I graduated that I still had my eye on working for Gap. And I wanted to go to San Francisco and work there. It was very much Liz Lemon, I want to go to their moment. They weren't on my radar before they came to campus, but once they did, I had a very singular focus. And I did not get a job there at first pass or at second pass, maybe third pass. It took quite some time. And the field observation is that there are multiple ways to get what you want. And it's so obvious when I say it. And I know you know that. But when we are so singularly focused and it seems like what we want is within arm's reach, you can almost taste it, and you have been so dedicated to achieving it, it can be really difficult to accept and know that there is another way to do it, that there might even be, in fact, an easier way or a better timed way. So here's how I got into Gap. After trying once through interviews on campus, after trying 2 or 3 times, applying through their website and applying through monster.com, is I got in as a temp. So I figured out what temp agency placed temps through Gap. And after working with a few other agencies, I finally called them, made an appointment, and had a meeting and said, I only want to look at roles within this company. And they came back to me and shared 3 open roles. And I remember what these 3 roles were. The first was in finance, the second was in HR, and the third was in recruiting, corporate recruiting, for roles within the merchandising complex, uh, merchandise financial planning and distribution, or inventory strategy and allocation. And so I knew that is really close to the role that I want to do. I want to work in merchandising. I want to touch and feel the product. I want a strong hand in how these products come to market. So I said, yes, I want that job. And I started working in recruiting. It was fantastic. After a few months in, as a temp, I got my very first offer letter for a retail job. And I remember, and I'm looking for this photo, I asked my husband to take a picture of me signing my offer letter sitting on the floor at this coffee table that looks a lot like the one I'm sitting at now, because I was so thrilled. And I worked in recruiting for almost a year and a half, really enjoying this piece of retail leadership, enjoying understanding hiring needs, understanding how to hire candidates, um, checking references, providing feedback. At that point, we provided feedback. I really enjoyed getting to know different hiring managers, and then also doing and conducting retail training, which I really got into in that role. And at some point, I remembered, oh, I want to work in merchandising. And after hitting a first wall, a second wall, a third wall, by the time that I was ready to make the transition and really enter retail merchandising, I was able to do it with a lot of ease. And it was a very different way than I thought it would be, as these things happen. And I was able to pick up a phone and call a hiring manager and say something to the effect of, I would like to interview for a role on your team. And it was at that point so easy compared to what I was trying to do before. So there are multiple ways to get what you want, and it may not be fast and it may not be direct, as is the journey of things in life. But if you can take a step back and understand that there are creative ways to reach the goal, and that these things take time, particularly if you're in it for the long game, you will get there. And in fact, it can be easier than you think with time. So try again. So I want to wrap up the story about these mugs because this piece is kind of funny. So I find these mugs and I pop them in the dishwasher and decide the next morning that I want to drink my morning coffee out of one of them. And I was realizing that my coffee was getting cold because I was irrationally afraid to drink out of it. Like, you guys, I thought that the ghost of Christmas past or career past might be in the mug, and if I drank into it, I would be unleashing some spirit. It's pretty hilarious. Eventually, I would drink out of the mug, And I keep drinking out of this mug every morning because it helps remind me of these lessons, these milestones, these observations that shape the way that I do my work and shape the way that I support independent retailers and makers. So I am going to continue to talk a little bit more about my role in corporate recruiting and my observations there. I think they may be really helpful for you as you head into the summer season, thinking about increasing headcount, or as you're thinking ahead long term into additional support for the second half of the year. So here's how to make sure that you follow along. And this is my one holdover from Retail Trend Reports, and it's my ask of you, basically my homework. Subscribe to Retail Shift on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you walk away from the episode having learned a nugget or having affirmed something that you already knew to be true but needed to hear it from another perspective, if something was insightful, leave a rating or leave a comment, or better yet, share this with a friend, a fellow retailer, a fellow maker, another steward of small businesses. And until next week, I want to say thank you so much for joining me. Know that I believe you and your business can thrive in equal proportion, and I am really happy to join you on that journey. This is Chris Gio from Merchant Method, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.